Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're going to this Bava Batra daf Kuf Chaf Gimel. We are going to begin on Kuf Chaf Beis and with Beis, second line from the bottom, Tanobana. So the pasuk says regarding to Dinim B'Chayru, we're learning about the din that B'chor gets Pishnayim, double portion. The pasuk says Tanobana Lases will Pishnayim, that we give a double portion. So Pishnayim Ke'echad Ata Oimer Pishnayim Ke'echad O Enu Ela Pishnayim B'chol Nechasim. So the question is, when we say, or right off the gate, we say it's Pishnayim Ke'achad, but maybe it's not Pishnayim Ke'achad. Maybe it's Pishnayim B'chol HaNechasim. So what exactly does this mean? So it says the Rabbi, Pishnayim Ke'achad Keneged Echad Min Achin Noitel Pishnayim. So what does that mean? She'im Hoyu Chamisha Achin. Let's say you have 5 brothers. Cholkan HaNechasim B'shisha Cholak. We divide it up into 6 parts. V'notel HaBechor Pishnayim Mehen. So therefore, there's 5 brothers, and the Bechor gets 2/6, or Chonachasim Shnot Pishnai Bekulan. He actually gets double from everything. So therefore, he would end up, if there's 5 brothers, he's one of them. So he would end up getting basically whatever those 4 guys have. He's going to have double that which they have, which of course is not what we hold of. Rather, it's Pishnayim Ke'achad. It's not Bechol Hanachasim Adinhu. But we could look at it possibly to argue in the following way, as it says in Kuf Chaf Gimel Amud Aleph. A lot of it got it to here. Chelko im echad v'chelko im chamisha. We divide it with 1 out of 5. Ma chelko im echad pishnayim ke'echad v'chelko im chamisha pishnayim ke'echad. Because in the pasuk is really only talking about 2 kids. You have one that you like and one you don't. So who are you supposed to give it to? So the Rashbam says above that Haksiv Basrei Kias Bechor Ben Hasnua Yakir Lasal Pishnayim. You have a wife that you love has a kid, a wife that you hate has a kid. So you have to give, even though you don't necessarily love this person, you don't necessarily love the other one. Of course, that doesn't really mean the Psukim actually is referring to love and hate by the Torah. That you're, it's not really a proper halachic marriage. Anyway, but the point is that obviously, if we're dealing with 2 brothers, so then what you do is we divide into 3 parts, and then this guy gets double from the other guy. But the truth is, oklach l'derech zu chelkim echad v'chelkim hey malchelim echad pishnayim b'chol nechasim malchelim hey pishnayim b'chol nechasim. The truth is, it's the same thing when we're looking at it as he's getting double all the nechasim, because there's only 2 brothers. So when there's only 2 brothers, either way there's no nafkamin, if you will. The nafkamin is when there's 5 brothers. When there's 5 brothers, does the Bechor get, as though there's 6 brothers, he gets 2 portions, or is he going to get double that of the other brothers? Which obviously there is a huge significant difference. So that's the question. It's possible, so again, Ke'echad o klach l'derech zu chelkuim echad v'chelkuim hey ma chelkuim echad pishnayim b'chol nechasim ma chelkuim hey pishnayim b'chol nechasim. Tamloi b'haya b'chor b'haya b'yom hanachilas banav atayr risa nachla yitzel achin. So it says that the Torah is giving a nachla to the brothers. The only way you can understand this is based on lashon harishain. That's what it's coming to tell us. So therefore, the din is that we go basar, the first thing as we mentioned, which is Pishnayim Ke'echad. And if that's not suitable, here's another proof. If they Reuben B'chor Yisrael Kihu HaBechor Uv'chol Yitzri Aviv. So what ended up happening? That Reuven lost his Bechor and was given to Yosef. So what happened? Yosef didn't get double of all the brothers combined. He just got a double portion. So therefore, he became the Bechor, which is only Pishnayim Ke'echad. That's what it is. All right. So that's what we see. So Nitna B'choras Livnei Yosef ben Yisrael. So the Bechor was given to Yosef, the son of Yaakov. V'olis yaches l'habachayra. V'oimer, and we have another 3rd pasuk. If you didn't like that one, Ki Yehuda Gvar be'achav, that Yehuda was the strongest of his brothers. Nagid mimenu, he was like a leader. Aval b'chayro Yosef when it comes to the firstborn, to Yosef Nemra. B'chor Yosef, v'Nemra b'chor l'daris. Ma b'chor hamor Yosef, just like by Yosef's Pisham Ke'achad, B'chor hamor l'daris Pisham Ke'achad. V'omer in another pasuk, V'ani nasatu Shechem Achad, that I gave to you this land Shechem al Achecha more than your brothers. That I took it from them with a sword and with a bow and arrow. So as a side, we ask, is it true that he actually took it with a sword and weapons? Not with the keshes, the bow, do I have faith, and not with the sword does it provide me salvation. So it's again teaching us all these different proofs that it's Pishnaim Keach. So the Brisker Rav has a famous drush on this, that why is a sword tefillah and why is a keshes bakasha? So when it comes to tefillah is so powerful. It was masakin by Moshe and Anshei Knesset Gedolah, Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak, Yaakov, all these great people that instituted the power of tefillah, and the words of the tefillah again are so powerful. Just like a sword, you can lift up a sword, even if you're not an expert, you can still do quite a lot of damage with it. And that's what the power of tefillah is. It's like a sword. However, when it comes to bakasha, similar to like a keshes, in order to be successful, you have to have some expertise in it. Therefore, you have to go to a chacham. Alternatively, it's explained that a keshes, the more successful you are, is the closer you bring the string back to your heart, then the further that arrow is going to go, the more impact that arrow is going to have. So too, the more, when it comes to a bakasha, the more it comes from your heart, the more powerful it'll be. So why do you have all these proofs? Maybe it's coming to teach Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. It's only teaching the din that the father could choose to give all the Yerusha to his sons, right? Or not to his sons, it has to be someone who has some relationship. So maybe that's what it's come to tell you. Tashma b'nei Reuven b'chor Yisrael. Maybe we don't learn out this. These two words are not exactly the same. Tashma v'b'chor Yosef. Yosef gufim b'mai to Pishnaim Keachad. How do we know that's true? How do we know he actually got just Pishnaim Keachad? Because Tashma because that's what he got. He got one more thing, not double. Maybe he only got like a palm tree or something. Ephraim Menashe were just like Reuben and Shimon. Therefore, Reuben and Shimon, Rashbam says, is Keneged Shnei Shvatim. So too, that's what they got. They also get, just like Reuben got a portion, and Shimon, so did Ephraim, so did Menashe. Okay. Ba minei Rav Chelbam Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani. Ma Ra Yaakov. What did Yaakov Avinu see? Shanata b'chayda Reuven, that he took it out of Reuven's hands, if you will. But Nastal Yosef. So Ma Ra, what do you mean he saw? The pasuk says that Reuben was punished, that he moved the bed out of the Shivcha's tent after Rachel died, and he put it into Leah's tent, and he shouldn't have done that. So obviously we know that that's the case. Why did he give it to Yosef? I understand why he lost it, why Reuben lost it. He was punished, but why did he then give it to Yosef? You have a parable to a Baal Bayis. He has an orphan in his house. Yomi he becomes rich. I want to be able to pay him back. I want to be nice. And in what was this case? Rashbam says the Baal Bayis was Yosef, and the Yosef was Yaakov, because Yaakov went to Mitzrayim in time of starvation, and he was satiated by the second in command, his son Yosef. So he wanted to reward him for that. Understand? You're telling me that if Reuben didn't sin, he wouldn't have given him anything back? Of course he would have given him something. So that's not the reason why he received the Bechorah. He would have given him something else. Ella, Rabbi Yonasan Rabcha Lo Kach Omer is not what was said, that Ruah Ha'isa B'chayil Latzeis Merachel. Because the truth is, Yosef was supposed to be the firstborn son. Because the truth is, he was supposed to marry Rachel, because that was the deal originally. El Todes Yaakov Yosef. So that's why it says, because Yosef really was supposed to be the Bechor. Ella Shekadamtia Leah Barachmim. But Leah davened with great mercy, because she didn't want to, as we're going to see, marry Esav. Because Esau was the oldest, Leah is the oldest. So the truth is, even though it's true that Yaakov was supposed to marry Rachel, it turned out that, as we know, that's not what happened. The modesty of Rachel, Hashem returned it to her. So my Kadam to Leah Barachmim, what does that mean? What was this mercy? So we talk about how beautiful Rachel is, and it says, Leah had something wrong with her eyes. So my rakos, what do you mean? They were soft, they were weak, they were drippy. Marakos mamish sheshim begunus behema tameelu dirachasav dechsev mina behema tahira umina behema sheri nena tahora. When it comes to Parshas Noach, we find that we're very particular, not even to speak negatively about non-kosher animals. We add extra letters to demonstrate that. This is also brought up in the beginning of Pesachim. So begunus sadikim dibra hakosav. Certainly, we're not going to start just speaking derogatorily, disrespectfully about a tzaddikus like Leah. So what does it mean her eyes were Eini Leah Rakos? Elohim Rabbi Lezer, it means Shema Tonoseha Aruchos. It means her gifts were long. What does that mean? So let's look in the Rashbam, first of all. It says, Rakos Mamish Eineha Noitvois Dima. It can't be that her eyes were like, and there was something wrong with her eyes and everything. Rather, aruchos, gedolos bekahuna. It means that it was alluding to the fact that she's going to have children who are going to be bekahuna, lavia, the levi yatzimimena, diyatzimimena, shemimena kohanim levim, malchus miyehuda. So it turns out that she's going to end up having great people coming from her, from Levi, from Yehuda, and of course this is Leah, right? Leah had Levi, had Yehuda, she had most of the kids, but the point is that her eyes doesn't mean her eyes, but that which gives light to the world is that what was her gifts were aruchos. So that's what it's referring to. It's exactly. How do we see that from Eini Leah Rakos? It's a good question, but Rakos sounds like Aruchos. Okay. Rav Oimer Oilam Rakos Mamish. V'ganayhu El Shvachu was actually a praise. Shahaysa Shamas Al Parshas Drachim. She heard from the crossroads of Bnei Adam Shahiyam. People were saying Shnei Banim Yeshlo Rivka. Shnei Banim say Yeshlo Lavan. Right, a bunch of talkers. Yeah, Lavan has a couple daughters, and Rivka has 2 sons, 2 twin boys, Yaakov and Esav. Gedoyel Gadol Katan Katan. Now, not everyone knew, by the way, interestingly enough, that Yaakov purchased the firstborn right. Now, the truth is, since Yaakov purchased the firstborn right from his father, and he bought it, he got the brachos, he got it from his brother Esav, of course. So what that actually shows is that really, halachically, Yaakov was the Bechor, and he rightfully should have married Leah. It's an interesting point. There was a switch by Yaakov and Esav, and then there became a switch by Leah and Rachel. So obviously there's a reason for that connection, but she may not have realized that. And maybe that's also like there's an element of sneeze between Leah and Rachel, that they didn't know all of this information. Okay, so Al Parshas Drachim, Mishelas Gadoil Ma Maisev. Who is this guy? This Esav Ish Rahu. He's a bad guy. He's Malastim Brias. He steals. Katan Mamasav. What's his actions? Ish Tam Yoshev Ahalim. So it's interesting. What a woman is most interested is like, what did he look like? What are his actions? What type of a person is he? That's what matters. She cried until her eyelashes started to fall and her eyes weren't looking nice. But it was not as a negative, it was a positive. It showed how great she was, that she didn't want to attach herself to a Russia. He saw that Leah was hated. So my snua, ilay masnua mamish. Again, actually, I'm going to so how can you say that she was hated? She saw, Hashem saw that she recognized that the Maisim of Esav were hated in her eyes. And that's why she was able to immediately have a child. What was the sneeze? So Yaakov said to Rachel that I am your father's brother. I am, Lavan, your father, I am his brother. So we're asked, V'chi ben Rivka, it's not true. It wasn't therefore the son of Rivka. V'chi ben Rivka, v'holoi ben Achos Aviyahu. It was his father's sister. El Oimrula, what he was said was the following. He proposed. He said, "Obviously, marry me." Armalei in yes. Miu Abru Ramahu. He's a trickster. V'yichaltle. He's not going to allow it. So Armalei my Ramu say, what's his trickery? Armalei Isle Achasa de Kashishiminoi. I have an older sister. V'laminsavali Mikama. And he won't allow me to marry before her. So Armalei I'm also a trickster in Ramois. You saw. Is it possible that you can tzaddik should be involved in trickery? Yes, sometimes yes. Because the pasuk says, "Im navar titavar." If the person is honest, be honest. However, am ikesh titapol. That if the person is crooked, then you could also act accordingly. So maslo simanim. So you give her simanim. Kika Ma'ila Sabr Hashta Michsafa Aksai. So what's going to be happening? He's not going to care. He's going to give Leah at the wedding, and then Leah's going to be there, and Yaakov say, "I'm not marrying her." It would be a huge embarrassment. So Mesartinhu Nihile. So therefore, Leah gave Rachel the simanim. Behind the Nixiv Hiba Biker Mihini Leah. So Yaakov realized it was Leah. He didn't know. Rachel, the simanim that were given over to Rachel, and then given over to Leah, he didn't know until that point in time. Now so why is that sneas of Rachel? So when it came to the Dudoyim, unbelievably, it says she had these flowers, and Rachel asked for them, and Leah said, "It's not enough that you took my husband, now you also want to take my flowers?" So what are you talking about? I gave you these simanim. So the point was that Leah never knew that Rachel was supposed to be the one who was going to marry her, get married first. That Yaakov made this whole deal. He thought that the simanim, some people say he just said she taught her sister the dinim of a woman, nida chal halakas and there, or she did give over the simanim to her sister, but not that they were supposed to be for me as a sign, but just stam. And therefore, Rachel was sneezed that she never said a word, which probably means that Yaakov Avinu also never said anything, and he didn't make her feel horrible because apparently that would have been the case, but he, of course, went to Lavan afterwards, and he was appalled by what happened. Question 9, which is also TB 18. Madua nitla ha'bachar Reuben and Madua nisla Yosef. So it was taken from Reuben because he switched the beds. It was given to Yosef because really the bachar was supposed to lachatchil be given to him because he was really supposed to marry Rachel, but because of Leah begging and crying and the sneeze of Rachel, so therefore Leah ended up having the first child. Bamini Abba Khalifa. So he asked the following question. Kuruya Merav Chia. He asked the question of Rav Chia Barabba. Bichlolon Atamoitze Shivim. So it says that there was 70 of them that left, says Rashbam. Shal Yisrael. Kishabolu Mitzrayim, when they went to Mitzrayim, Atamaitza Hakasav Kol Nefesh Mitzrayim Shivim. It says there was 70. However, Ubeprata Natamaitza Shivim Chaser Echad. There's only 69. So how do we understand this? Because if you count all of them that went to Mitzrayim, there wasn't 70, there was only 69. And again, it goes through this, how we figure this out. So the Rashbam says it, but let's just see the Gemara first. So Biprata Natamaitza Shivim Chaser Echad. So Malay Toma Haisa Imdina. So there was a twin, says Rashbam, Toima Shiyoldu Leia Shtei Banais B'Kerem Echad, that Leah gave birth to two daughters at the B'Keres Echad at the same time, right? So it's referring to a twin. So the ace, that's the answer. The ace Dina Bitoy El Miata Tuma Haisaim Binyamin. So you could say the same thing about Binyamin. The pasuk says on Kuf Chav Kimel Medbeis, that's Binyamin Achiv Ben Imois Omer Margolis Taiva Haisa Biyade had a beautiful jewel. Viatam Avaka Shal Abdi, you want to lose it. Haki Yomer Rav Chama Bar Chanina Zuri Chevet Shal Rasa Badach V'Lei Dasim En Achoymais. This is the answer which we saw before, not too long ago, regarding the Beno Slavchad and how they were miraculous when they gave birth at a later age, after 40, and so to Yocheved at 130. And it's calculated because we see that Yocheved was born Ben HaChaimais. It was Ben HaChaimais. She was conceived on the road, so she was considered like the 70th, but she wasn't actually born until she actually got there. So there, or between the walls, if you will. Shenemar Asher Yelda Oisel Levi Mitzrayim. She was born to Levi in Mitzrayim. So that's the answer. In the 130 years, we see this from Moshe Rabbeinu. He was 80 when he was, of course, this is his mother, but he was 80 years old when they left Mitzrayim. And we know the Bnei Yisrael were there for 210 years. So it must be that when she gave birth to, he was 80, so therefore 130 years later is how we make the calculations when she gave birth. Okay, but regardless, that is the tarot. So how we got to number 70. Look at the Rashbam on the bottom. It says Behedya Shishim V'Sheish, there was 66. B'nei Leah Chaser. T'chsib b'chlal dida shloishim. V'gimel u'b'pratim yatamoitza el olamid beis. Okay. All right. Fine. Shenemar. Fine. Ask the question. So the pasuk says in Bereshis, "Vayhi kasher yalda Rachel es Yosef v'gomer." That for some reason, as soon as Yosef was born, as a little baby, everything changed. So Ma'ashnaki is Yalid Yosef. Why did it happen the second that Yosef was born? They all wanted to leave. Like, what was so special about Yosef that they realized it's time that they should leave the house of Lavan? So Amalei Ra Yaakov Avinu Shein Zar Shel Esav Nimsar El Biyad Zar Shel Yosef. He realized that as soon as he steps out of the house of Lavan, he's susceptible to being attacked by Esav, which of course what happens in being Parshas Vayishlach. But he wanted to wait until Yosef was around because Yosef was able to overcome Esav. Shnemar B'Hayi Beis Yaakov Eish. It's like fire. Beis Yosef LeHava is like a spark. Beis Esav LeKash V'Gomer is like straw. Esvei. The pasuk says, V'Yakim David Mehaneshef V'Ada Erev LeMecharasam. So it says in Rashbam, but Amalek, referring to Amalek, Shepashtu al Saklag, that when they went outwards towards Saklag, the Nahagu Nishe David, the Nahagu Mairi, the Sefer Shmuel, V'loi David mi Yehuda, Havi. So it sounds like he came from Yehuda, and yet he fought Amalek, which of course is a grandson of Esav. So we see you don't need Yosef, you need Yehuda. So Amalek. The akrach nevi'e lo akrach kasuve. Even though it's great, you learn some nevi'im, you don't know the basic psukim. The chsiv, pasuk says in ksuvim, it says, Belechtoi el Siklag Nofolav Mimenashe. It says from Menashe, which of course is the son of Yosef. Anna v'yo Zavad v'Dael v'Michael v'yo Zavad v'Elihu v'Siltoi Rashi Halafayim Ashel Menashe. So it mentions all this whole pasuk, all these different people, but the key piece is that they came from Menashe. Rav Yosef vehem min b'nei Shimon halchol har seir. Adashim chamish meyois, there was 500 of them. Upalati and Naria Rafia Uziel b'nei Yishi b'roishim. So these people were at the top, the head. The Yaakov Sheris Apleitel Amalek. They attacked the remnants of Amalek. The Yeshu Shaman Hayamazeh, and they stayed there until this day. So you see, it was again b'nei Shimon. It wasn't Yosef. So Amarabba Barshila Yishi. The Yishi, who is mentioned in this pasuk, right? Uziel b'nei Yishi, he was actually b'nei Menashe. He actually came from Menashe. T'achsim b'nei Menashe chefer v'Yishi. So therefore, there was Yosef in this battle as well. Tanabam. That a Bechor will be able to take the double portion. Even when it comes to the Matnas Kahuna, the Zerah Chaim Akeva, as Rabbi Gibber and my Rabbi in Miami, so we say the mop on the jaw. Of a Mukdashin, when it comes to matters of Hektish, which we'll understand later on, Uva Shvach, and its increases, Sheshavchu Nechasim, Le'achar Misas Avihin. All the improvements after the death of the father. So we'll understand what exactly that line is. So Ketzad. Haniach Lehen Avihin Para Muchkeres. Let's say you have a father who left a cow which was leased out for, as Rashbam says, l'machzeh schar, for half. U'miskeres b'yad acherim, and it was a set amount was given for a certain amount of time to someone. Or shehoiso roye ba'afar, or you have this animal that's in the swampland, says Rashbam. The lo chasru mezayni, which basically means there was no requirement of food. The yolda b'chor v'yolda, and it gives birth. So b'chor noto pishnayim. So in those cases, the b'chor will get pishnayim of that. Says Rashbam, b'hai vlad, of the vlad, hoyel v'shvach de memelahu. This is shvach that came on its own improvements. V'dami ki'ilu chuksik bo avihin. And therefore, since it's shvach that came a mela, not through any effort, because again, they didn't have to feed them because it was ba'agam, and therefore, because of that, it just, you're able to get that. So all the shvach that is boilame, which comes memela, is part of pishnayim. Avol banu botim, let's say this person made improvements by building houses, or the kramim, he planted, so it's not shvach memela, in b'chor nil to pishnayim. So what is that referring to? If the father already had it before he died, of course he's going to get it because it's his. If he's entitled to us like accounts receivable, it's not something that he is entitled to now. So therefore, because of that, he shouldn't be able to get the double portion, as we've said many times. Here, says Rashbam, he has some people in the city he's close to, and they recognize him, and therefore it's like he is mazaket him. But matanos behamosehen biyad kishenishchadu kaidim shehufreshu min behema. It's already like a known fact that this is what's always done. This guy always gets the matnas kahuna from these people. Because he's a recognized individual. This always happened. This guy does it all the time. Always gives it the exact same coin. Says the Gemara, udish tachit. It's referring to, it was shechted b'chaya debuha. It has to have just been shechted while the father was alive, even though it wasn't separated. However, we have the chiddush that we see in numerous places, whether it's true or not. Is machlokas v'ksavar matnas shlo horma k'misha humadam. We hold here that matanis that were not yet separated, it's key like they're separated, because since you shechted it, you have to separate these things, and therefore because of that, it's key like he was already entitled to it. Okay, so look at question 10. B'mayim Kamairi Idasu Avuhim Shita V'Lo Roihu. So we said that really it's B'makar Kahuna Skina V'Nishcha B'Chayav. We hold Matashal Hormer Kamisha Hormedamian. Weiter. Mukdashin Lavdi Deininhu. What is it referring to? How do we understand this when it says Mukdashin? That when it comes to Mikdashim, we said above that he's entitled to Pishnayim. What does that mean? It's not his. So our answer is B'Kadashim Kalim V'Lib Rabbi Yosei Galili. According to Rabbi Yosei Galili, he holds that it is Mammon Balam, as we see here. The Yomer Mammon Bailam, who he holds that Kadashim Kalim as well as the Kadsh Kadashim. So therefore, the din is that it is considered to be Mammon Balam, the owner's property. The Stanyu Mal Mal Bahashem Rabbis Kadashim Kalim Shein Mammon Balam. Rabbi Yosei Galili says the Rashbam. So what is that referring to? So first of all, the Mammon Baal L'chol Davar. Alpha Kaddish as Ishi can marry a woman with Kadashim Kalam. You give her that. She may not like it, but that's what it is. So when it says Mobal B'Hashem V'Chishma Mito B'Bikadoin, a person denies a safekeeping that was given to him. The Chichishma V'Nishma Sheker, he lies. The Chaz V'Hoida, and then you admit to it. So V'Hevias Hashamai. So you have to bring a carbon. So arouse Kadashim Kalam L'Skai V'Lehem Ashim Gezelus Im Kafar B'Hem V'Nishma V'Hoida. Kishar Gezel Mamoin. So even though you can say, well, it's not it's not my money, so why would I be chayiv when it comes to chayiv ashim gezelis? The din is your chayiv ashim gezelis in this situation because kadashim kalam is considered like mom and baal. Okay, fine. So divrei Rabbi Yosei haniach lehen avihin para much reches. So we said if let's say the father left a cow which was leased out, umuskeres biad acherim. Again, it was rented out in the hands of other people for a certain amount of time. It was grazing in the swamplands. The Yolda, and it gave birth. So Hashda Muchkeres Muskeres. The Labrishus of the Mardidhu Kaima, they're in someone else's Rishus because they're being rented out. Armit Shuckle, you still say that he gets double portion. Serba offer him a boy, it's not in anyone's Rishus. So then certainly in that situation, the Havi Muksik. So he's more of a Muksik. So of course he should get Pishtaim in that situation because it's not in anyone's hands. So Hakamashwan, the Mucheres, Muskeres, Duma de Raya Buffer. It's the same. Raya Buffer. Just like when it comes to in the swamplands, it's considered Shvach de Mamela Kaasi. It's because why? Because you don't have to feed him, and therefore since you don't have to feed these animals, so therefore it's Shvach Mamela, and that's the reason why I get Pishtaim, as we saw before in the Rashbam. As we continue Kuf Chav Daled Amanav, Af Mucheres Muskeres, the same din. Shvach de Mamela Kasi Dulchasi B'Mazaini. You don't have to feed them, and that's the reason why you're entitled to Pishtaim. Says the Rashbam. V'im Timer Solisni Roy Ba'afar, just mentioned that case. You just understand because there was no money, there's no feeding or anything, so therefore it's a shvach memela. So why do you have to mention that at all? So says the Rashbam, the Israch su roy ba'afar. Why then you have to mention that? So Israch you think when you rent it out, it's never considered to be shvach mamela. Why? People are plowing with it. The oibdin ba, they're working with it. You think maybe you don't get. They're not doing the work. They're not putting any effort. Other people are doing it. So shvach de mamela chashvinan. That's considered to be shvach mamela chashvinan law. Heicha de ein malin lo mezainis. Okay. Question 11. So that we needed that one for this question. So that's why we have to see the Rashbam. Aniach avihin par mucheres muskeres. Hashoyse rabba afar. V'yod b'chor pa'odel b'shtayim. So madua israch misni. Hain roy ba'afar v'hain b'cheres muskeres. So the first one is when it comes to ba'afar, that's coming to tell you that the din is it's only because you were giving it mezainis. That's the chiddush with regard to that. The be'ina deloy chasibah mezainis, and because of that, it's considered shvach memela. That's always why you give pishnayim. However, muskeres and muskeres, you would think that it's always considered shvach memela, even though alpha b shaboy alidei she'uvdin ba. So you would think that's not considered to be the chiddush is that even though people are working it, it's shvach memil because you're not the one that's doing it. Okay, that's the idea. Let's look at question. So TB. Okay, we did that one already. TA 17. Ha'im yesh Yerusha b'mukdashim. So, is there Yerusha? So, it's interesting language, or Yerusha, or is there, we're talking about Pishnaim over here, but basically all he's asking is it yours or is it not? So, according to Rav Yosef Glili, this is TA 17, B'kadoshim kalam, Mechayim Rav Yosef Glili, Yesh Yerusha Ad Kan.